Hello, today we're going to do a demonstration of welding some material. Right now we're working with this MD-1, which is a 1 mm thickness metal detectable flat belt. So it's important to make sure you have all of the tools ready for you. So I have a heat wand that has been heated up. I have a surface that won't melt or burn. This is a phenolic piece of material. I have my splice rail, that's the right size for the belt. I have my cooling clamps, and I have my handheld heater. And then of course I have my material. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to tack the material closed. So this really helps because when you're trying to do this handheld stuff, there's a lot to keep track of, and by tacking it together before you try and weld it, it's just one less thing to worry about the pieces kind of coming apart and having a bad weld. So what I've done here is kind of puzzle pieced, put the pieces together as equal as possible, as flat up against each other, and I'm just going to lightly melt them together or weld them together very lightly. So what we call this is just a tack. I'm going to let it sit for a minute and dry, or not dry, cool down, so that it looks like this. So now I don't have to worry about these falling apart. It is not fully welded, it's just a starting point. What happens next is I take my splice rail and my lid, and I load the belt that I want to weld into here. And what I'm doing is I'm centering the weld, the place that I want to weld together. I'm centering it on the splice rail, and I make sure that all the edges are down, and then I put my lid on, and for good measure I typically try and push the pieces together again, and then I'm going to load this belt into my handheld. So I just push down, load it in. Really, I try and center again the belt on the center of the machine, and then I push start, and it cycles through for the time that this one is actually at 148 degrees for 4-minute dwell time. And with our handheld heat press, it's got a set it and forget it feature. So I walked away, and the reason I came back is because I heard that sound, which means that it's finished. So I am going to unload it and use my cooling clamps, and then set this in front of a fan so that it cools, so that I can open it, see how my weld is, and put the next one in. Okay, so now that it's cool to the touch, these cooling clamps really help it cool down faster. So I will take it out of the cooling clamps and set those aside. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and open. So we're just going to take the lid off. This is what it looks like, and take the belt out. So what I typically do after this is I go ahead and let it cool a little bit more. I don't really want to mess with it. Oh, and there's my next one. I don't want to mess with it too much, but I'll show you on a different one that's cooled already what I'm looking for. So after you do the weld and you're satisfied with it, you really want to do a quality check. So I kind of run my fingers along all of it, and if you can't see where the weld is, that is awesome, so you did a great job. I can see a little bit of extra flashing here, and that's why I know that's where the weld is. It's really not that noticeable, but what I do is I look at both sides, I flip it in and out, I make sure that it's a complete weld, and then I do stretch it to make sure that it's strong enough, that the weld is strong and it's not going to break apart. So that's my quality assurance, and that's how I know that I have a really good weld, and this is the finished product.